The one who's so far away. I mean, like, did I listen to Godsmack? I did. 100%.
You did?
Yes, I
Okay.
did. And there's stories there. There's some stuff there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Welcome to 1999, the podcast. I'm John Brooks.
I'm Jenn Tisdale.
And we are going to do things a little differently today, and we're going to sort of explain why.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Jen, what's new before we start? Any fun stuff happening in Gentown?
Well, to quote a classic 90s film, I'm riding the crimson wave, which is not new. I've been doing this for many years, once a month for the most part.
Sure.
Other than that, I mean, we're going to explain. I mean, I guess some new news-ish is just explaining why we're sort of skipping Audition.
Yes, sort of. Well, we're not totally skipping it.
No.
By the way, I'm riding the seasonal sinus infection wave. That's fun. So.
Listen, if at any time you need to get your Cranberry CD from the quad, just raise your hand. Let me know. If your foot hurts, let me know.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We were going to cover Audition, a movie that Jen and I, up until recently, were the two people on Earth who hadn't seen or heard of this movie.
That's not true. But
okay.
When people love a movie, they just kind of think everyone's seen it, and then you have to let them down pretty gently. Like, no, I don't even blink if someone's never seen Back to the Future. I just go, oh, you should. I think you'd like it. I don't care for artistic bullying. I won't.
It just
I won't receive it.
Yeah,
I won't receive it.
Well, it's different. Like, it just. Not seeing Back to the Future is one thing, but if someone being like, I haven't heard of this movie, would be something else entirely.
Even then, if I'm like, okay, I just nothing bothers me. Truly,
no, it doesn't bother me. It's just there's got to be a story there that you somehow didn't.
Yeah, the story is probably that they were born in 2000, and maybe. That's how life works.
But then they wouldn't be adults. I guess they would.
Yes, they would. They'd be 24 years old. Like, it's not. I know, don't. It's so again, none of that ever bothers me. Reboot a movie and I'll still love the old one because it's out there, everyone's fine, everyone's okay. Everybody's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not okay, but it's okay.
I'd never heard of Audition. Joey was the first person to mention it to me. And then
sweet
everybody
Joey.
We talked to was like, oh, I love that movie. Oh, it's the best movie. And I'm like, why don't I know about it?
Because the world is a very big place. The world's a very big place, and we no longer have only 3 channels from which to choose. I'm never going to put on a hair shirt and grab a whip and take myself to, Bad Girl Town because I haven't heard of the thing.
Sure. No, I never felt bad. It's very weird that it felt like a joke that everybody had been playing on me all this time. Anyway, I watched it about a week or so ago, and I'm going to share some thoughts about it today. And I texted you and was like, I don't think you should watch this movie.
No, you texted me. There's a bad dog part. And you gave me the timestamps, and I said, I'm not watching this movie. Now, before anybody in the old internet.com verse rolls their eyes about a sensitive animal person, that's not it. I think we've talked about that website. Does the dog die?
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
I always look ahead and then I dutifully fast forward until my actual dog died a month ago. And she was the animal love of my life. Mm-hmm. And boy, am I still also riding the grief wave, crimson wave and grief wave, and that's not helping. And I'm just very sensitive. I'm usually a very sensitive person, which I appreciate about myself, but it's more so. And I couldn't, even though you very kindly provided me timestamps, I was like, I feel like I'm going to be just too sad. I've been crying all week. Hormones, girl stuff. But I have been crying all week, even though it's been a month. And I know grief isn't linear, but for sure I thought I'd be a little further along right now. but I'm just having a little bit of a bounce back. So that's where we are, everybody. My dog died. So I couldn't do it.
Yeah, understandable. And this is not an issue of like, because like you have a much higher threshold actually for like horror stuff than I do, I think. But like
I do.
Yeah, so this is not Jenn won't watch things that are horrific, and this is a fucking horrific movie.
Is it really? See, now that I do like gore. I just the second
then you would love this shit.
I know. You know what? Once there's a little bit of time, I bet a year I'll be riding that audition train straight to Hollywood because that's where the auditions are. But not yet.
So I'm gonna share my thoughts on Audition. Feel free to chime in and ask me whatever you want, and then we are going to talk about something more fun, still in the horror genre. We're going to talk about the Prince of Darkness himself, and the music that he makes. We're going to talk about OZZFEST '99, and it's specifically a documentary about OZZFEST '99 that we both watched that was great, and we'll get there in a second. But Audition lands nowhere in the 1999 box office. In fact, it is in its very limited theatrical run. It made just shy of $360,000 worldwide on an undisclosed budget. $360,000 on an undisclosed budget. That's not a lot of money.
Does it feel like, how much do you feel like it cost?
If it felt
more than
pretty
that.
Pretty high budget.
Are these because it's 1999. Are there more? There's practical effects mostly. Okay,
so it's all practical effects. Yes.
Oh my god, I love it. Okay, give me a year. I'll be back.
I can't think of any CGI in it, or at least anything that's obviously CGI at all. So it's all practical. It's very very elegantly shot. It's a very beautiful movie in terms of its arrangement and staging and all that sort of thing. So I imagine. I mean, I don't know how big the actors were. I don't know a ton about Japanese actors, so I can't really say much about like what I would guess the sort of performance budget was. But yeah, it wasn't a cheap movie. I don't think. It premiered October the 2nd, 1999 at the Toronto International Film Festival, better known as the TIFF. The TIFF, as part of a curated
just the
programming.
TIFF. Is that the T-shirt that they better sell that at the merch table? Sure. Just the TIFF.
I'm sure they do. Although it's Toronto, they're much more polite than we are. At the TIFF, as part of a curated program highlighting Japanese horror, or what today we call J-horror, that included Ringu, a film that was remade as the American blockbuster The Ring in 2002, and which had its own sequel released in Japan in 1999 that was also part of that screening. The film was directed by Takashi Miike, who is best known in Japan as being somewhere between the country's own Eli Roth and Yui Boll, as he tends to overindulge in graphic violence and underindulge in production value. Audition is a notable exception to his resume, an unusually careful and thoughtful art piece that takes a sudden and stunning turn to sadism and torture porn in its third act. The film centers around a widower, played by Ryu Ishibashi, whose best friend, a high-powered film producer, played by Jun Kunimura, comes up with the idea of advertising an open casting call for a fresh female movie star to star in a fake movie, which would actually serve as an audition for the new future wife of Ayama, the widower. He settles on a mysterious former ballerina named Asami, played by a former model, Ehis Sheena, I think that's how you pronounce it, who gives his producer friend, an asshole but the only smart person in this movie, bad vibes. And so his producer friend's like, I don't know about this girl. She seems weird. And our protagonist, Mr. Ayama, is like, no, I love her and she is wonderful and she is the most intriguing woman I've ever met in my life and blah, 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 blah. But in time, we learn that Asami is the one with ulterior motives, and the groomed becomes the groomer. The film holds an 83% certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 70 on Metacritic. David Edelstein and Slate gave the film an overwhelmingly positive review, noting, quote, "During the ghastly, surreal climax, I had fun closing one eye and with the other watching various ashen older men stumble toward the exit." I also kind of had to watch with one eye. So I winced every once in a while, as did A.O. Scott in the New York Times, who wrote, quote, "The picture is about victims, but it's also a great sick rush with a kicker on the level of the vanishing." But Elizabeth Weitzman in the New York Daily News was not kind, writing, quote, "Possibly the sourest revenge movie ever, Audition starts off as a sweet, low-key romance, then abruptly turns into a grisly, sadistic thriller." In fact, every review seems to agree on two things. One, it absolutely is not for the faint of heart, a point many reviews go very far out of their way to make. And two, the movie's sudden shift in tone is jarring, abrupt, and effective at whatever it is it's trying to do. They just don't always agree on what it's trying to do, and even if they do, if that thing is actually worth doing. Over the last quarter century, film critics have spent a lot of time wrestling with the question as to whether this is a feminist film or a misogynistic one. And to me, the answer is clearly both and neither. Audition is a film about the way we normalize male control over others and especially over bodies. Its audition scene is, in many ways, as disturbing and demented as the grisly torture scene that bookends it. Women are paraded in, asked to perform, and then dismissed and discarded like samples at a tasting table. And this is all set against a goofy little jazz number reminiscent of a French farce. So by the time Miike treats us to the unbearably slow, deliberate revenge torture scene, we stick with it, hard as it may be, because it feels earned and necessary. This may be worse than what our antagonist did in degree, but he seems to be saying hardly in nature. Asami's body has been prodded and manipulated by men her whole life, and what she is the end result of their Frankensteinish experimentation on them. Rather than conforming to the demure, perfect specimen they wish her to be, she is reflecting their dehumanization of her right back on them. So I think this movie's about a lot of things. I think it is a very much a about things movie, right? And I think that's sort of why it works. I don't, again, as I said, I have no threshold for like torture porn. I hate that kind of horror movie. It is not my thing. I do not like to watch people endure physical pain, especially prolonged physical pain. However, I dealt with it with this movie because I feel like what it's saying is really interesting and like necessary, and in order to get the point that it's trying to make across, I feel like it has to indulge in a lot of those more sort of base torture sequences. I'll also say that I think the torture sequences themselves are actually very clever in that a lot of it is suggestive. You feel like you're watching something where actually you're just, a lot of it's sound. So a lot of it,
oh boy,
during the final sequence, as Asami is torturing the protagonist, a lot of it is sort of just like shots where you're not seeing what's actually happening to him, but hearing everything, and it's very particularly focused on like her face and on his body. And that is very it's very cringy, but it's incredibly effective. It's so well done, and I felt like it earned it. I can see why people love this movie. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't think it's like as brilliant as people say it is. That's just how I kind of felt. I think people have kind of overhyped it to us a little bit. I think that's probably part of the reason why.
Or conversely, there was no way your viewing of this could have lived up to their hype. So perhaps if everyone hadn't said this to you, you'd feel differently.
Yeah, I genuinely like what was I was like, oh, I see why people love this. Like there definitely is a lot going on here. I think it's a very, very, very well performed magic trick. Like that's what it comes down to. Like it is the execution of everything here, and like the way that it goes from being like this very sort of subtle romance movie with a lot of like creepy overtones, and you can feel the dread kind of building, to just making this sudden turn, and all of a sudden like it's all payoff, is just really, really well executed, and it's really good. But like, yeah, it is not like you got to be all in when you're watching this, because it does not let up towards the end, and it makes you feel everything, which is the point. Like it is supposed to make you feel things. Like you are supposed to feel the same kind of degradation that these two men have put women throughout the entire movie, but with like candlelit dinners, right? Which is like just as degrading in an opposite kind of way. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Glad I saw it. Certainly the most artistic of the horror movies that we covered for this round. So,
well, in 365 days, I can't wait to see it. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. And again, like, yes, it's not. It is very focused on this one thing. It doesn't do things necessarily gratuitously, but like, yeah, when it grabs you, it's like, okay, we're going for a ride now, and you're like, oh fuck.
Oh boy.
The performances are brilliant. I think like all the way through, and I think this actress who plays Asami is just like absolutely fantastic. She's done a bunch of other, I think, horror as well, and she's just got this like the way that she moves in her presence is just incredibly disturbing, just sort of like naturally. I don't know. She's like kind of perfect for horror, but it's her performance is absolutely fantastic, and I think all the way through. I always like I hate like I don't want to sound like dumb and xenophobic or whatever, but like I sometimes have a hard time knowing if someone's a good actor in a foreign movie when I don't like speak the language.
I don't think that's xenophobic.
No, I know. It just kind of sounds like whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, you're just concentrating too on reading the subtitles, so you're not fully engaged.
This is the thing. Yeah.
In the performance, you can't watch their face the whole time. You're looking down inevitably. You miss a lot.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
But I will say, like, even in this case, like, I could tell these are great performances. So I think that says something. So, yeah, there you go. That's Audition. If you like horror, if you're into this sort of thing, if you've not seen it, it's definitely the kind of thing that people who are into this sort of thing will love. And it is interesting and effective and unrelenting, and has a point. So good stuff. So with that, the thing we also watched this week was OZZFEST 99, or a movie about it.
A documentary about it. Mm-hmm.
For some reason didn't get released. There's a whole story here that I know you're going to tell.
I will tell you exactly why it didn't get released. And I find that this documentary is a nice bridge between the previous block and the next block of films, because there's a little bit of horror in this, and also there is a love story.
Oh, yeah.
There's a love story in this documentary. And a lot of you already know about it if you're fans of reality television. So
this is like the pilot to that show.
So there was nothing particularly specific about OZZFEST 99. I think so. It was directed by Penelope Spheeris, who did Decline of Western Civilization, and then, Decline of Western Civilization 2. And of course, famously, for me at least, she directed Wayne's World.
Yeah,
had a difficult time doing it. Sounds like she's actually had a difficult time many times in her career, and sadly, this is another one of those times. In an August 2023 interview for Decibel magazine, I guess I'm assuming it's a magazine.
I remember that magazine.
It's still around. It's still happening. She was it's all about this documentary, and the very annoying and sad reason why it wasn't released is because of all things, music rights. She was told that all the music rights that to the documentary were included in everybody's contracts, all the bands. Later, she found out that wasn't the case. So she made this really fun documentary that you can stream on Vimeo. Bummer. And she was like very heartbroken by that. She goes, that is the last music documentary I did. I just didn't want to go through that again. Apparently she met with Sharon about having it released. I would assume that this would be a great year to do that, as it is the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
So, maybe, I don't know what that means. Does that mean a wide release? Does that mean you have to go to Los Angeles to go to the what were they talking about? The Academy Museum, which is difficult to get into at times. I think it's timed and ticketed and still sells out. But so that's that. But, you know, I very much enjoyed this, even though I think I only liked 3 of the artists.
All right, which three? Which 3?
I do like Black Sabbath.
Sure.
I think that Ozzy Osbourne had a beautiful voice. I think he had a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Big Robert Zombert fan, Rob Zombie.
Robert Zombert. Hell yeah.
And yes. I enjoyed Godsmack. Oh, and you know what? I'm a liar. I'm a liar for Primus. I like Primus as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody else, and there's a list. I'm sure I meant to pull up the
Deftones.
Deftones are there.
System
Slayer.
of a Down.
System of a Down.
Slayer. Yep.
Static X.
Never heard of them.
Oh, you've never heard of Static X? Wayne Static with his troll doll hair. Oh, that's classic. I mean,
wait, was he the guy with the goggles? Is that dude?
He's the guy with the big hair all the way at the top, sadly.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, in the beginning, there's some, like, at some point, there's some, I don't want to bounce around because I did make chronological notes, but there, one of the things she asked a couple of the artists who she would talk to directly on camera, she being Penelope, is, you know, since at this point Black Sabbath had been together for 30 years, and she's asking some of the bands, do you hope to be together in 30 years? And Wayne Static is just like, I mean, yeah. And he died in 2014. So
he's dead
of an overdose.
Oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
He's not the only one. I didn't Google
God.
everybody. For some reason I was just like, where are they nowing on occasion? But in this Decibel article, they say Jeff Hanneman, Paul Gray, Joey Jordison from Slipknot, and of course Wayne Static had since passed. And I was like, God damn. And then they were like, and Black Sabbath is still around, and Penelope goes, well, they sold their soul to the devil. And I was like, Penelope, you are hilarious. So yeah, so I just, you know, this feels very much that this article or this interview also said you filmed this, like, this was the same year as the god awful Woodstock 99.
Yes.
What they asked her, what do you think went wrong there? And she was like, well, because this was Sharon Osbourne's idea. We should have maybe started there. OZZFEST was Sharon Osbourne's idea.
Yes.
And Penelope Spheeris
a pre-ready for primetime Sharon Osbourne appears.
That's right. She looks
a lot like a mom,
like a mom. Still has all those goddamn dogs, which was very. I was like, oh my God, I can't get away from dogs. They love their dogs, and their insufferable children were along for the ride. But Penelope said, I suspect that Woodstock 99 didn't work out because Sharon Osbourne wasn't planning it, and I was like, you know. That I watched both Woodstock 99 documentaries, and those guys were just like greedy, disgusting assholes. And I know we'll maybe talk about it at some point, even though there is a ton of content out there. I can't imagine what we would add to the conversation, but talk about it.
No, we will talk about it. We'll talk about it in the summer when the anniversary of that actually happens.
Shit and sexual assault was the theme of those.
Well, there is some overlap because the last part of the documentary, which takes place at the Gorge in Washington State, which is, I think, the third to last stop on the tour. The tour ended at like the end of July, but that one was like July 18th, and Woodstock 99 was July 20th, I think. So they were really close to each other. And Robert Zombert even is like, fuck Woodstock.
Here's what's funny about Robert Zombert's hilarious anti-MTV rant when a year prior, Dracula, the music video for Dracula, which was inspired by both Night at the Roxbury and the Munsters, was climbing up those MTV video music charts. Just climbing. And here he is like, fuck MTV. I'm like, Robert. No, Robert.
And then like 95, More Human Than Human was huge on MTV as well with White Zombie. Like, come on, Robert. I know.
Robert, you don't.
He's playing a character.
Well, I will tell you something interesting also about 99, big year for Robert. This is the first year, and I got this from Music Connection magazine. I guess that's where they connect all the music. Very, very helpful. If you're feeling lost out there, that's correct. This was the first year. I don't know if you know this about him. I'm a big fan. He always, I think he always does, possibly since this year, he always does something at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Which I've never been to. And it's frankly, it should be illegal that I've never gone, but that's fine. This was the first year he did it. They allowed him to design a section. And it's a maze. I think it's usually a maze. This one was called The Thrilling, Chilling World of Rob Zombie. And my favorite part of this entire interview was when he says, and the Jenny Jones show is a guilty pleasure of mine. And I was like, oh, okay. So we fuck MTV, but Jenny Jones, who was tangentially involved in a murder.
Oh God, yes, she was.
The Jenny Jones murder. Yeah. Rob, get those priorities straight, buddy. Get them straight.
Yeah. I was also thinking a lot about Woodstock 99 while watching this, and some of the potential overlap. Certainly I think so the Woodstock 99 documentaries have an agenda. I mean, they are about things. This is very much a anthropological study, right? And I really like that about this, is that she's taking a very sort of hands-off, just kind of like letting people say their thing approach. It's very like good-natured and sweet. I think she is trying to like show all sides of this kind of venue and fandom. It made me not want to be anywhere near any of it, but like I also love a lot of the people involved.
Yeah.
But certainly I think a lot of the toxicity and sort of just like misplaced rage that we start to see, with Woodstock
all
99
over Woodstock 99.
Is right. I think the elements of it are there as well.
Yes, but here's the thing. One could argue, and why would they?
Yeah.
Where's this argument taking place? Probably at Woodstock 99. Every band at OZZFEST 99 is a quote unquote angry band.
Yeah.
Woodstock 99. No, like Jewel wasn't Jewel there, or like Sheryl Crow? Like
Sheryl Crow.
It was not. Maybe that was 94, but I don't think so. It was like it was eclectic enough. The angry people were like, not even angry. I would argue. I mean, Limp Bizkit was the biggest culprit in terms of like encouraging or not discouraging gross behavior. But Woodstock 99 felt very much like, oh, your performances are actually being ruined by the audience. I don't even think they're feeding off of them. They have their own thing going on. I don't know where they're getting this energy. I say too. That's
in some cases it was the Fred Durst and Korn.
Well, no, it was the environment. It was the way they were being treated.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was where it was being held, how expensive it was, water running out, yada yada yada. That's what was going on there, and they got too big. It got far too big. OZZFEST was a conservative 50,000 person event, which sounds crazy until you remember that I think Woodstock 99 was like 400,000 or something crazy, and they rented out a pavement. Old Air Fort, whatever it was, base, something. I can't remember. It's probably old prison, basically. Anyway, so the factors that contributed to the rage that was seen at Woodstock 99 was really environmental. And the music was angrier at OZZFEST 99, but it was a comfortable, taken care of environment. They really were focusing on the attendees. It was great.
I also feel. I mean, I felt like the 50-year-olds and the 11-year-olds were all sort of on the same page, and that there were like there was people who are just like lifelong metalheads who were there, but then also this like subsection, because there was a time where like System of a Down and Slipknot were like piercing through the mainstream into the sort of like toxic masculinity space of like popular music. And I feel like a lot of that presence was there as well. And just like, it's just like, that's not like OZZFEST, I don't think would do as well today. I think there was also something about sort of this moment in like 90s history, but also, I mean, the sort of the moral panic side of it is like eerily just like it is fucking right now as well, where Sharon Osbourne gets in a debate with this like fundamentalist preacher guy on his radio show,
the preacher on a radio show, which God bless,
and talking about like Satanism. She's like, what Satanism? Like, she's like
it's hilariously that my favorite part of that conversation is inevitably what happens with these guys every single time is they have a laundry list of things they believe the gay community is doing. And he's rattling off like, oh, you don't know about this? And it's like the golden blah, 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 blah. And Sharon's like, no, you are far more invested in these not untrue. Like only those weirdos have such an involved list of things they believe the gay community is doing. And everyone else is like, you're putting so much energy into this. We think you doth protest too much, but that is
I loved the fuck out of her in that interview. I'm like, you're so awesome.
She's great all around. And I never watched. Did you watch their show? It premiered 3 years later in March 2002. So at first I thought, oh, maybe this was the catalyst, but since the documentary was never released, I don't know. Maybe not, but. I get it. She's, likable. He's still making some sense.
Yeah.
He's charismatic. He's very charismatic. He's very funny. I think I wrote down a lot of one-liners of Ozzy Osbourne's. I get it. I get it. I'm on board.
I think the one framing device that she uses, if there is one that sort of goes throughout the entire movie, is like, the fact that Ozzy is just kind of this stuff's happening around him. And he's just sort of like, I'm too old for this shit. We're just going to go out, play our Black Sabbath and go back to our trailer. And the rest of these like fucking kids can like do their cocaine and do whatever the shit they want. And it's so funny because because when she cuts to like girls being like, Ozzy, I want to have a threesome with you and sign my tits and and then it's just like him sitting by himself, like with his family, like
he doesn't care.
Smoking a cigarette, being like, I don't fucking care anymore.
He doesn't care. Well, that was the best line. I wrote this line down. So at this time, he's 51 years old, and he's like groupies. He's like 51 years old. He's like, what am I going to talk about to a 21-year-old? He's like, what's the point? He goes, what am I going to talk about? The fucking stock market. I laughed so hard when he said the stock market. What am I supposed to talk about with these 21-year-olds? ... The stock market. And I was like, now is that a conversation you're having now with your peers? But still, point well taken. I'm glad that's the only thing stopping you from banging these groupies. It almost felt like maybe he could have if he wanted to. I don't think Sharon cared. Just like, whatever.
Yeah, no. But he also just clearly doesn't care. But like also not in a way where he's like apathetic to the whole thing. It's he thinks it's all great and he is genuinely sort of humbled that he still gets to do this after all this time and still loves doing it and still gets stage fright and nervous and everything else. And like that stuff's all really great. But I just love this sort of the juxtaposition between sort of where all the youth are at and where he's at and how it's sort of still all works, even though it's like very kind of different places and they sort of what they perceive Ozzy Osbourne to be versus what she shows you of him kind of backstage. I think that's a really wonderful, like, sort of narrative of the arc of the rock star. And, it's pretty great. I also like,
but then we got full access to it just a few years after the fact.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that I also like that the Osbournes was as a reality show also, I think a little obviously more kind of like, manipulated and scripted into like,
they should be, I'm going to say it now. They should be the Kardashians. They should have all the power and the money that the Kardashians have. We should have elevated that family.
But this feels like a lot more of an authentic view of the family than we ever got on the Osbourne show.
We messed up. Yeah,
I know we do that a lot. So whatever. Little baby Jack Osbourne is so goddamn cute in this as well.
Really? I found both of them to be insufferable. I was like,
oh, they are insufferable, but like he looks like little Jonathan Lipnicki. It's sitting next to Robert Zombert. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, as he patronizes this insufferable child simply because Ozzy Osbourne is a hero of his. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Things that made me laugh very hard are seeing like old Slipknot, their like earlier masks.
Yeah.
before they leveled up, and there's so many of them, and so Penelope's asking like, who you are, what do you do, and they're talking behind their masks, so their mouths aren't moving, but they're talking. And my favorite was the one that is just like, He says his name and he's like, I do sampling. I was like, sir. Sir.
I'm sample guy.
What does that even mean? You're on stage. There's live sampling on stage. I don't even understand what's your purpose. And then you one other guy, and maybe people who are Slipknot fans already knew this. I'm not a Slipknot fan, so I'm discovering in this 25-year-old documentary. One guy has organic brain syndrome, which is now called neurocognitive disorder. And he was just like, too much LSD. Now I see trails forever. And I was like,
oh, great.
What a nightmare.
That sucks.
How old they must be young in this. And 99, they can't be very old. How much LSD have you already
in their
done?
20s, right? Like I
can't. Have you done so much?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I think Slipknot like started in like the late 90s. I mean, yeah, I don't
probably like a few. I think probably just a few years prior. I want to say 95 maybe, but I wrote a lot of notes.
Yeah.
There was bull riding.
Yes.
I also liked the way that Penelope didn't like. I felt that at Woodstock 99, you were supposed to be judging these topless ladies, but at OZZFEST, it was like, okay, there's tits out. We love to see it. Let these ladies out. Up, guys are going to be weird sometimes. I already accept that in 99. I accept that in 2024. But either she didn't show as much of the weirdness, or as much of the weirdness wasn't happening. Just a lot of ladies topless riding a mechanical bull while a drunk Christian guy says whore and then says, I'm going to take one home with me and make her righteous. And I went, there it is. There it is. You don't hate her. You want to take her home and fuck her and make her righteous. Say that. Jealous. Skip the whore part and just say, let's go home together. Also skip the righteous part. You just want to do
your performative nonsense, but like, in the same.
But even still, that didn't end up in a fight. He just yelled a lot. And that was it. So I hope people watch this documentary. Otherwise, they won't know what we're talking about because it's a little insider baseball. I'm not really providing any information.
Well, we should also say, like, it's very grainy. It's not the easiest. I mean, you get the sense of like what watching the actual thing would be, which would be pretty spectacular. But like, it's not, but it's completely watchable. All of it's like very, audible and all that sort of thing. But it is certainly not a pristine transfer of the film, because it's probably also illegal.
I guess I mean, I'm wondering, since it was never released, how did it get uploaded onto Vimeo? Who did that? I think
illegally, and probably not for much longer.
Somebody who, I don't know,
someone figures it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We shall find out at some point, I would think. But yeah, it clearly is not. That's not a authorized copy of the movie. That is.
Yeah.
On Vimeo.
What else was I gonna say? The Wayne Static overdosing, very sad. He overdosed on oxycodone, hydromorphone, Xanax, and alcohol. He'd battled drug addiction for a while. I also liked, on occasion, Penelope would just cut back to scenes of Ozzy holding various pets.
Yeah,
I think he was kissing a cat at one point. He was holding another dog. It's like, this is supposed to be a Chihuahua, but I think it's something.
And the cat thing was right after like one of the vignettes that people are like, "Fuck yeah, Ozzy!" Yeah, like
and then he's like,
literally kissing.
That's the best. I'm like, you guys need to see what your hero's doing. You need to see it. This is what you need to aspire to.
I will. I will say that. One scene in the movie was maybe even more unbearable than anything in Audition, and that was the freak show part. And I was
Reverend B. Hold on, where is it? Reverend B. something.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? I hate with my little handwritten notes. You can hear the paper turning.
Wasn't having a good time watching that. I'll say that much.
It was a freak show, a good old fashioned freak show for anyone who's like, I'm not going to watch this. And that was a thing back then. That was a thing. There was a lot of people who were like, I can hammer this nail into my face, and I'm going to put an incredibly heavy weight attached to something that's attached to my nipple rings, and then pull it up.
Yeah,
and I'm going to ask this child to do something. Now, it's Reverend B. Dangerous. Now, I looked him up, and my favorite part of Reverend B. Dangerous is that he currently has a private Instagram account. And it's like, sir, you hammer things into your face. What's left? What are you hiding? We've seen your
that's why it's private. They gotta
stretched out nipples. Yeah. What could be behind these closed doors, sir? You drilled things into your skull, like just blood, so much blood.
Yeah.
As if communicable diseases weren't a thing. Blood
I mean, he's
everywhere.
very good. He's a very good showman. I like for the performance of it was great, but I was like, no.
RBD, Reverend Be Dangerous.
Man,
so,
yes.
Mm-hmm, also, I don't want to get political, but I did go, oh my goodness, do you know what I'm about to say? When they quickly showed one girl who traveled all the way from Palestine. And I went, oh, look at that. Look at that.
Yep.
And the person next to her goes, it's right next to Israel. And I went, boy, isolate this. Isolate this.
Oh, yikes.
1999.
Simpler time.
Time. So, and then it's another great part that made me laugh is Static X's bus getting repossessed.
Okay, yes. Yeah. That, and like I liked that scene a lot too, because it's part of the sort of like weird sort of love ethic of metal, that they were like, it's his job, like, this sucks, we don't have a bus anymore, but like someone screwed us over and this poor guy's been chasing this bus around the country, and like,
I know, how much did that cost? What is this who are you, Dog the Bus Bounty Hunter? Like, the amount of money spent trying to get this bus back surely exceeds whatever this like, stop it. I think this person was just going to OZZFEST. And they're like, oh, I can't. I missed it again. I guess I got to hit the next city. Bummer. Check it in again, boss. What's that? No, that's not a concert in the background. I'm hot on their tracks. I think that guy was just following OZZFEST around.
Well, everything that those bands said about like the way that they have to live, I was like, nope. no, thank you. They're like, we get up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we like drink, and I'm like, oh god, I'm already exhausted. Just like stop. I like no. God damn it.
How do you drinking every day like that is insane. I don't understand. I mean, again, I couldn't do that when I was in my 20s. This is not me being like, I couldn't do that now. No, I couldn't do that.
But then also like playing a complicated musical instrument well. I'm like,
well, here's the thing. Let's think about who these bands are for just a second. It's loud. Yeah. Everybody's equally as drunk, or probably far more high or intoxicated in the crowd. They're just in a mosh pit. They're not going to know if you miss every single note. They're not going to know.
Yeah, but I think also one of the things that
it's all chop suey to them. Like, it's all chop suey.
I think the movie does really well that like they're a lot really good musicians here. Like I don't like the Deftones, but like I think they're a good band. System of a Down is a band that I've never had like whatever, but like they are really very talented. Like it's very clear that like what they do. And
would you like?
Love them.
Would you like to know their 9/11 connection? Drink.
Did they do 9/11? Is that
that's the toxic part. No, Toxicity. Toxicity premiered September 4th, 2001.
Okay.
And they were still at the top of the charts on 9/11, but Chop Suey was taken out of rotation because of lines like, I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide. And I guess they were like, it's too close to 9/11. And I'm like, I mean, technically that also was a suicide, but I'm not sure that's what the people are going to be focusing on.
That's funny.
So they had a little 9/11. I think there was also, I thought I wrote down Columbine, but maybe I'm just seeing Columbine everywhere now. I thought there was a Columbine connection as well, because again, 1999, hard to get away from it. I did say drink when you hear Columbine. Oh, I remember, because I think when the Christian groups were protesting, they kept name checking Columbine. And remember, as you and I have discussed, those boys were KMFDM fans. They were not fans of this kind of music.
Right.
Did you and I discuss? We've discussed. I've talked about this a lot with different people.
We talked a little bit about it last
so
time.
Don't worry about what everybody at Columbine's listening to. It's not the OZZFEST 99 lineup. Don't worry about it.
One thing I did find funny was that last week, our friends at the Monsters That Made Us podcast, they covered the Scorpion King, and they posted the Scorpion King soundtrack, which is basically OZZFEST. So it's like Godsmack, System of a Down, Ozzy Osbourne, and then it starts going like POD, 12 Stones, Mushroom Head,
nice,
Lifer, and then fucking Creed and Nickelback, and Hoobastank. I'm like, wow,
oh my god,
this is not my thing.
That was such a strange time in music. It really, really was. And I know that somebody's going to disagree with me, but truly, apart from the bands that I had mentioned on this lineup that I like, everybody did sound the same. They all sounded the same. They were all low guttural screaming. It was come on. I think
most of the ones that you don't know about anymore sounded the same. Like the ones that are just sort of interchangeable. Yeah, there was the Deftones were kind of, I think,
that's happening in every 5 seconds. I was like, and I remember this. I act as if I'm witnessing this for the first time. I remember all this. I was 19. Prime.
Yeah.
Primus.
Yep.
They were. How adorable was Primus when they were talking about being
when
they were talking about being intimidated?
I know.
I was like, "Don't you dare! You're fine. You little."
Just kept hearing the South Park theme.
You sweet angels. Now I couldn't take my eyes off of Buckethead. I simply couldn't take. I couldn't take my eyes off of Buckethead, and I was like. I looked him up. I was like, what's Buckethead doing now? Still kicking around. He's done a lot of things. He's more like a hired gun. He was in Guns N' Roses from 2000 to 2004.
He was.
Yep. Brian Patrick Carroll, also known as Death Cube K and Big B. Wow,
Big B. Okay. Sure.
Big B. Yeah. He's played with the only band I recognize other than Primus is Guns N' Roses. And I guess he started out, it's a KFC bucket on his head. And you know what? We love we love when the branding makes sense. It happened, I'm getting this from Wikipedia, I'm embarrassed to admit. It happened when he was watching Halloween 4. He was inspired. And who hasn't been? He went right out, he bought a mic. That's why his mask did remind me of Michael Myers' mask. And then the bucket idea, and here comes a quote, came later that night while eating chicken. He's like, I was eating it and I put the mask on and then the bucket on my head. I went to the mirror. I just said, Buckethead. That's Buckethead right there. It was just one of those things. After that, I wanted to be that thing all the time. This is what he said in Guitar Player magazine in 1996. And I'm not mad about it. He does have a heart arrhythmia. Worried about that. So, Buckethead. Oh, I was just tickled beyond belief. I was like, okay, I don't know.
I have to say, so he wasn't he wasn't part of Primus.
He wasn't? Okay.
No, I'm just finding this out.
He was a hired gun. Oh.
He was a hired gun. He did a collaboration with Les Claypool around this time. And so then he played with them, I guess, for OZZFEST. But listen to this. So he says, usually a solo artist, although he's collaborated with a wide variety of artists, such as Bill Laswell, Bootsy Collins, Bernie Worrell, Iggy Pop, Les Claypool, Serge Tankian, that's the System of a Down guy.
Yeah, that's
Bill Moseley, Mike Patton, of course, from...
hey, I've seen Mr. Bungle live, and Fantomas.
And then the next name on the list is Viggo Mortensen.
You got to. What? For what? For what?
So it says, Buckethead also began a collaboration with Viggo Mortensen, whom he first met through a recording project called Myth, Dreams of the World in 1996.
Oh my God.
Together they released One Man's Meat, One Less Thing to Worry About, and The
Wait,
Other
is that
Parade,
the title? One Man's... Okay.
Yep. There's 2 different albums.
Oh my
Buckethead
God.
contributed to the 1999 album Devil Dub by blah, blah, blah. I need to find Viggo Mortensen's music now.
Yeah,
and
this is incredible.
Yeah. I wonder if either of those albums came out in 99.
Well,
and this is a wild Wikipedia page. Let me just tell you something about Buckethead's Wikipedia page.
Once you fall down the Buckethead hole, you're not going to want to come out of it. I found it very difficult to leave because when he spoke, I was riveted. I was like, okay. Because he was the one who was doing the weird. He had a puppet. So when he was being interviewed by Penelope, first name basis, he's answering the questions using what appeared to be an actual decaying head. I was like, Buckethead. And he was talking like ventriloquist style. He's, it was fantastic. 10 out of 10 no notes, Buckethead. 10 out of 10 no notes. Now, somebody else I wanted to know what's he up to now is Ozzy Osbourne's longtime assistant, Tony Dennis, who propped him up at the time of the documentary. They had been together for 17 years.
Yep.
When I Googled him, I saw a brief image. It looked like he also appeared on the Osbournes. Again, I didn't watch the show. Now, if Reddit is to be believed,
and it's flawless.
3 months ago, someone had asked a question, and 3 months ago, a guy on Reddit was like, I got a very interesting story that involves Tony Dennis. Now, it's not that interesting. It's fine. But this guy, it happened in August 2023. A lot happening in August 2023. Penelope's given interviews about the documentary. This guy's got a story about Tony Dennis. He's dropping it on Reddit. So just to be clear, this guy wants us all to know, it could be a gal. Get it together, Tisdale. He's been a big fan of Black Sabbath for over 40 years. So this is coming from a place of love. He is, he and his family went on a road trip through California. They ended up in Santa Monica. On one of those days, they woke up early and he borrowed a bike from the hotel, went down to work out in Venice, ran into Arnold. That has nothing to do with the story, but he wanted us to know that. And that's fantastic because you know what? The more I listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the more I love him and the angrier I am that he can't run for president. We need to change that. We need to change that one pesky little law. So he gets back anyway, he's pumping some iron. I'm like, my guy, you've strayed. Where's the story? Let's get back to it.
Yeah.
So he comes back to the hotel. He's chatting with his wife, letting her know he just quote unquote trained with Arnie. Winkety wink, wink, wink. We love it. He's like, while I'm chatting with my wife, one of the hotel concierge employees hears us talking and comes up to us. Hi, where are you guys from? I recognized him immediately. It's frickin' Tony Dennis. He's working as a hotel concierge somewhere.
Oh my God.
I know. Before I answered his question, I said, do I recognize you from somewhere like on TV? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, I think you worked for a certain A-list celebrity. Now, this is where I said, hold on. Is Ozzy Osbourne an A-list celebrity?
No.
I didn't think so. But anyway, God bless this man for saying
that. He's A-list of a B-list.
That's true. Top of the bottom.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I think you've worked for a certain A-list. The fella says, do you know what? I've been working here for 8 years and you're only the second person to recognize me. They talked for a good hour in the hotel reception. Told him a few stories about his time with Ozzy. He knew Randy too. I don't know who Randy is. Couldn't repeat some stories. He left Ozzy about 10 years ago. So this would have been about 2013. Got married. Ozzy was his best man. And he said, they thought it was just time to move on. He never had a bad word to say, was a lovely bloke. Wish he could have spent some more time with him. Tony said, no one at the hotel he works with knows his past history. So let's keep it that way. So he didn't bust out the hotel. So somewhere in Venice Beach, California. And there aren't that many hotels there. So I'm sorry to say. Bike ride away from Muscle Beach. Sorry. You get to give us enough context clues.
I can see the appeal of working at a hotel after that life.
I mean, a concierge is probably a lot easier. It's still the like, you know, the bones are the same. You're helping people. You're being a helpful guy. But even LA is filled with so many douchebags. I live there. I can say it.
Yeah,
it's still going to be easier than like cleaning up Ozzy's occasional shit bucket, which there is one. Recall, if you will, there's a bucket for Ozzy to run off stage and pee in, and then according to Tony, sometimes more than that, a poo.
Yep.
Now, what if Buckethead accidentally grabbed that bucket? We have to be careful. There's a man around OZZFEST 99 who loves buckets. We have to be careful.
Back to Buckethead, by the way. It turns out
I never left.
The other Parade and One Man's Meat, both Viggo Mortensen albums came out, both of them in 1999. So there you go. We're going to
listening party. Getting Viggo on.
Yeah. What's he doing?
He's available.
He is.
Available.
So yeah, I guess like I want to tell people to watch this, but I also want to tell them not to, and see if maybe it actually like has a full release.
Yeah,
at
just
some
give
point.
it a minute, because when if they're going to do a 25th anniversary thing, I'll have to assume it's this summer soon.
Yeah.
The tour was a couple months long. Was it a month long? Something?
It was from 2 months, so May to July. Yeah.
That's long.
I
That's
know.
really long.
That's really long. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty. I mean, for summer tours, it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard. I actually saw Lilith Fair at the Gorge that same summer, so I was there like probably a month before this takes place.
There were tits there, but it was a different vibe.
Very different kind of different kind of vibe. But I saw Sixpence None the Richer play.
She saw that
on a side stage before they were. But it was like yeah. So it was like that song was kind of in the ether, but they weren't huge yet. So.
Yeah.
I saw Maya tap dance. It's great. Maya.
They brought Lilith Fair back, but it's not Lilith Fair.
I know.
And I'm like, guys, this should be illegal. What are we doing? And it looked awful. Yeah. It looked like some Coachella version of Lilith. And I was like, this is...
If you don't have Natalie Merchant and the Indigo Girls and Sarah McLachlan.
If you don't have Michael Stipe's ex Natalie Merchant.
Yeah.
on that stage. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever read the story about how the two of them met for the first time, by the way?
I don't think so.
Oh my God.
No.
That's very interesting. Yeah. It involves a paper bag and Michael Stipe escaping out a bathroom window. It's a very funny story.
Oh, Michael Stipe. You know, I'm in a couple weeks, my person and I are going to go see acclaimed actor Michael Shannon performing in a tribute band, all of REM's Murmur album.
Shut the fuck up.
I can't, at a small club in Washington, D.C. My friend Dave Hill is opening up for them. Dave Hill, who's agreed to be on this podcast at some point, remind me to follow up. So
they better rock Catapult.
It's Murmur. I know it's Murmur. My hope is that they're going to sneak in some like
Perfect Circle,
peppier songs.
Yeah.
Because like just playing a single album is not very long, but it's true. You know, they're going to do a little. They're going to throw us a little Pop 89 bone or something. They're going to do something. I hope. Otherwise, we're all just going to be on the floor crying. I don't know. But anyway, that'll be fun, she said.
Yeah. So I have a question. So we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up horror now. We're moving on to romance, which is going to be nice for our souls.
Can be horror, depending on what the relationship is.
What was your favorite movie from this round?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
On the spottity spot.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, okay, because here's the thing. I wouldn't say this was my favorite movie, but the conversation I enjoyed the most was A Christmas Carol, I think, with Alex Steed.
Yeah, that was fun.
So my experience, I mean, that was a good movie, but I like the cheesier bad stuff. So probably maybe Stigmata. Probably Stigmata.
Yeah.
Because it was a real fun watch for me.
I think like the big surprise for me was that aside from Stigmata and Existenz, both of which like my opinion of didn't really change very much, and I like them both in different ways. I liked Stir of Echoes a lot less than I remembered
because it was so sad. Not a horror movie. And I liked
The Rage Carrie 2 a lot more than I thought.
Actual rage was in that movie, whereas Stir of
House on Haunted Hill, like much better movie than I
wait, that might have been my fun one. Sorry, I have such a bad memory. House on Haunted Hill might have been no notes, no bad notes. Legitimately, in my opinion, a mostly good, except for the ending, mostly great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah. And the other one, like, well, you weren't there for Sleepy Hollow, but that's another one where I was like, oh, this is not as good at all as I remembered it being. So,
I did watch the movie though, and I, as I did when the movie came out, and as I did again, could not stop thinking about Christina Ricci's wig. It was taking me out. Like, this woman is, I wouldn't say she was famously a brunette, but she was very much a brunette. And what they did to her eyebrows and that wig, I was like, I can't be part of this. I cannot.
It works on Yellow Jackets. It does not work here.
Yeah. makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes more sense there. So
because Yellow Jacket, she's a weirdo freak. So
yeah, and that's
here she's supposed to be
weirdo
like,
freaks have that kind of hair.
They do. But there she's supposed to be like, hot, young, seductive young thing. And yeah, I couldn't get over how boring that movie was. And I was like, really want this to get more exciting, but it never does. But it's very stunning to look at. My God.
It's beautiful because, got Tim fucking Burton. And speak of the devil, he shall appear. Beetlejuice. They dropped that poster today.
And that he's directing a remake of The 50-Foot Woman. So
I'm excited. I can't believe none of us thought of that. We were like, oh, it's just Beetlejuice too. No, of course it's Beetlejuice. You idiots. It's brilliant. It's so brilliant. I'm so excited for this movie. Maybe I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
So
looking forward.
Oh wait, one more thing. I started watching Northern Exposure on Amazon Prime.
I saw you did. Yeah.
Wait,
you started as in you hadn't seen it before?
Oh no. I watched it when I was younger, but I don't remember. I have a terrible memory, and that was, of course, 35 years ago. So 34 years ago. Yeah. Because season 1's 1990. Gotta say, to have an 18-year-old woman dating a 62-year-old man and getting like semi-married to him after he impregnates her, season 1, and not a single person having anything to say about that. Wow. Wow, 1990. What? Crazy.
You were so different.
She's 18. He's 62. I am stunned. I am shocked. I am flabbergasted. I am without words.
I do love that show, though.
I don't even mind. I'm not judging age differences. I can't believe that was happening in 1990. And I guess I can't. I don't know what I can believe. I don't know. Because then, obviously, just a few years later, here comes Lewinsky and Clinton. So, guys,
I mean, this is like pre-Murphy Brown.
Oh, you mean the Murphy Brown who like Dukakis couldn't stand because they dared have a pregnant 40-something-year-old woman on television? That was her biggest sin. Meanwhile, over here in Alaska, we got 18-year-olds having sex with 62-year-old men and getting married. Okay.
That show was filmed in a town called Roslyn, Washington. And the town is basically the set. Like it's like nothing. It's all just all.
I've been Googling. Like I need to go. All I want to do is go to there. All I want
like the radio station is like intact. It's awesome. Yeah, it's like walking through the set of the show. Still,
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so that's it. In terms of the 90s, we can technically call that the 90s.
Yeah, it's very much the 90s.
I got a lot of 90s things coming up.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, Murmur's not the 90s, but we'll whatever. REM is like
a band from the 90s. And if you recall, I'm seeing G Love and Special Sauce this weekend. So
yes, I do
recall. The 90s again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very, very busy living in the past.
All right. We'll be back with rom-coms.
Are we teasing out? Are we teasing? We don't even know yet. We're not sure which one we're doing first.
We know what the first one is. We know what the first one is.
Do you want to do the...
I'm just a guy standing in front of a microphone telling you to tune in next time.
Okay.
Or asking you to tune in next time. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the line. Is that the line? That's the line, right? Just a girl standing. Yep. I'm just a guy standing in front of a podcast mic asking you to please love us. Okay. See you next time.